Hey guys, so I decided I'm going to go ahead and do my birth story. I'm going to start off on April 25th. We went in for an induction. So we got there at 6 and they started an IV and I started Cytotec, which is a pill that you take, and I think it was every 3 hours I had to take it. Might have been 4, but I believe it was 3. And so I started that at probably 7 or 8 o'clock, and I was up all night long. By morning I was a 1, and the nurse said that the doctor said, well, my doctor said, unless I got to a 2, he could not keep me, or would not keep me, or could not, whatever. So he said, then he came in and he said we could try one more round of Cytotec, and if it didn't work, then I'd have to go home until Wednesday. And this was a Sunday morning. We went in on a Saturday. It was a Sunday morning. So, yeah, so they let me eat lunch, and I did the second round of Cytotec, and she checked me again, and I was still only a 1, so we were sent home. And I believe that, I also had Nubane while I was there, which is a pain medication, sort of like morphine. So I had that while I was there, and it made me pretty loopy. There's a failed induction vlog if you'd like to watch that. That's kind of in there showing how loopy I was. So the Monday morning I lost my mucus plug. And then Wednesday is when we went back for our second induction. There at 6, and my IV was started, and then at about 7 they checked me, and I was a 1.5, so I made a ½ centimeter progress, and I was, I believe, 50% effaced. So they started Cervidil at about 7 o'clock, and that is just like this little like tablet type thing. It sort of looks like a tampon, but it's not quite that large. And they just push it up against your cervix, and it has like a little string like a tampon does. At about 12 midnight, I started having contractions. So they gave me Nubane, which is the same thing they gave me at the failed induction, to sleep. And it didn't make me quite as loopy, but it definitely pretty much knocked me out. And I don't remember much of that night. All I really remember is getting up and going to the bathroom and going back to sleep, and that's all I really remember of that night. And then I probably slept for about 4 hours that night, which is pretty good for having contractions. And then at about 7 a.m. my doctor came in, and I was 2 centimeters, or no, the nurse checked me and I was 2 centimeters, and then my doctor came in and told me that he would break my water at 9, and if I wanted to get an epidural, to go ahead and get it now. So I decided I wanted the epidural, so I went ahead and got it, and I got that at about 8:30, and Pitocin was also started around the same time. A little bit before, actually. I think she started the Pitocin around when the doctor left, so probably like 7:30, 8 o'clock, and then I had the epidural at about 8:30. So my contractions then weren't so bad, but they'd get, like, my epidural would sort of wear off, so they had to come in and up it. I think they upped it 2 or 3 times. So my mom got there at about 10 or 11, and my husband and her went and got lunch. And so I was progressing pretty good. I was doing about 1 centimeter every 2 hours, I'd say. And so that was pretty good. And then by about 6 o'clock, I was a 9, 9.5. And I kind of got stuck there. I was still a 9.5 at 7. At 7, the doctor came in and he turned my epidural down, which I don't think he realized how low he turned it down. Either I don't think he realized what they started at, because they started it at a 10, And by the time he came in, I was at a 13. He turned it all the way back down to a 10 and turned my Pitocin up. And I know in the end he was just trying to get me to progress faster, and that's cool, but I feel like if he would have just left my epidural alone, just up the Pitocin maybe, I would have been okay. But we'll get to that. So yeah, he turned my epidural down, turned the Pitocin up, and yeah, so I started pushing at about 8:30, and I'm not gonna lie, it was hell. It was absolute hell. Like, it hurt so bad. I could not think of anything else but the pain. It was like somebody was just like taking this long knife and just shoving it down my spine. I cannot even tell you. And I ended up in the end having back labor. She came out face up, so this is part of the reason it was so bad. But if you want to research back labor, go ahead. I'm not going to explain all that right now. But it was horrible. I mean, everybody says that pushing is the easy part, but for me, pushing was the hard part because contractions, I had the epidural, and then when I was pushing, I basically had no epidural at all because I just tried to keep pushing and tried to keep pushing, and she just wasn't coming down very far. Like, she was down there and she could feel her head, and Rex and my mom both saw her head, and she's like, "Do you want to touch her head?" I'm like, "No, I just want you to stop touching me. I just want her out. I don't want to touch her. I'll touch her when she gets out." But now I really wish that I would have, because it would have been a cool experience. But, you know, you can only, yeah, when you're in that mindset, it's just like, please get this baby out of me. I just want to be done. So at about 10 o'clock, at about 9 o'clock, she was like, "You know what," or the doctor came in, he's like, "Turn the Pitocin down," because he could tell that I was, you know, in pure friggin' hell. So they turned the Pitocin down, but they still didn't turn my epidural up, and it was just still horrible. I didn't feel a difference. I was still in writhing pain. So she's like, "I'm calling anesthesia up here, and they are turning your epidural back up." So he came up, and he was not happy with the doctor. He was like, "I'm really sorry you have to be in all this unnecessary pain right now." So he turned it back up, and it didn't help. By that point, I was too far gone. It didn't help. So my doctor came back in probably around like 9:45, and I was just, by that point, I was like, "I cannot do this anymore. I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it." And he was like, "The only person that can get this baby out is you. That baby's not coming out on its own. You need to grab your legs and you need to push." And he said it pretty much just like that. And I was kind of like, really right now? Because he's usually a very nice man, but I think just the fact that I wasn't progressing, he'd already been there all day. He was just trying to, you know, I feel like he was just trying to give me that last, like, I think he was more trying to, like, not encourage me, but, like, just get me to do it. Like, just do it. But for me, for some women that might work if they have somebody, you know, like, "Come on, you gotta do it," like, but for me, it just pissed me off. Like, it just made me mad. It didn't make me want to push anymore. It just pissed me off, and it just made me mad at him. So, but he's still my doctor to this day, so, you know, water under the bridge or whatever. But, so, at about 10 o'clock, he came in because I was starting to crown, and I think I pushed about 3 times when he was in the room, and just that last push, I just pushed, because I could now feel her head moving down, because when she was up further, I couldn't really feel her moving, but once she was like so much was out, I could actually feel her sliding out. So, I just freaking pushed that last, not the last push, but the push that popped her head out, and, as soon as her head popped out, I knew it. It was just like, you could just feel, I could feel her head, you know what I mean? I could feel, like, her chin, like, I could just feel her whole head was out, and it was the most relief ever. Like, it was just the most relief I've ever felt in my entire life. I was just like, oh, finally. And then I pushed her shoulders out, and that kind of hurt, but it was nothing like any of my other pushes. Like, that was probably the easiest push. And so, when she was born at 10:20, and he said he had to cut the cord then because it was wrapped around her neck, and I originally wanted to do delayed cord clamping, and when he said it was around her neck, my heart just sank, because my cord was wrapped around my neck twice, and I came out blue though, and I had to be flown out to Children's Hospital right away, and my mom's birth with me was not good. So my heart kind of sank, but he still threw her up there, threw her up on my chest, and I'm telling you, that is the most amazing feeling you will ever feel, is when they throw your baby up on your chest, and like all of a sudden there's just another life, like another person there that wasn't there 5 minutes ago. It's just, oh, it's just amazing. And just to look at her and be like, you know, we did this, like me and my husband, we made her, we get all the credit for this. Like, this is our baby. And it's just I'm tearing up a little bit, but it's just the most amazing feeling ever. But yeah, so they threw her up there all slimy and everything, which I didn't care. That's how I wanted it. And I started rubbing her back and like, you know, come on, honey. And she wasn't breathing, so or she wasn't crying. I shouldn't say wasn't breathing. She wasn't crying. So the nurse took her over to like the little station thing with the light and all that, and all of a sudden there were like 4 or 5 nurses in our room, and it was just utter chaos. Like, I was scared to death, like scared to death. It was, and I was like crying, and I was looking at my mom because my husband was sort of like in between me and the baby, and I was like, Mom, why isn't she crying? I just wanted her to cry. The doctor was like, oh, she'll cry, and all this, and so they had like the little oxygen mask on her, and finally I heard like a few little like through the oxygen mask, and that was relief, like as soon as I heard that. But she still just wasn't breathing quite right, and the doctor said that they needed to take her to the nursery, so they let me see her for like not even another minute, like probably 30 seconds. I got to hold her. And then they took her to the nursery, and my husband went and saw her shortly after they took her. And so then I had to push my placenta out a little bit because he like couldn't quite get it. So I just he just had me push once, and it just popped out. I didn't see it or anything. And I had a small tear. It was probably like 3 or 4 stitches. Nothing bad. He was happy. He didn't even know it was there until I was like, did I tear? And he's like, well, I gotta check. So it wasn't even big enough for him to notice it like right away. And about an hour later they brought her back in, and she was totally fine. Oxygen levels were great, and the doctor, I believe the doctor said that she had a lot of fluid in her lungs. So I'm sure the cord didn't help things, but I believe it was mainly the fluid in her lungs, because she wasn't blue, you know what I mean? Like, her feet and her hands might have been a little bit purpley, but she wasn't, you could tell she wasn't getting enough oxygen, but she definitely wasn't not breathing. Like, she was pink. So I believe it was mainly just the fluid kind of blocking it, because she never decelled either during labor. So the cord couldn't have been there long. But yeah, so that is my labor and delivery story. If you guys want to watch our vlog, you can. We didn't give her birth, but we got everything leading up to it. So yeah, that was my labor and delivery. I would